on this episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast.
He said, wait like you believe what I said. Wait like you believe what I said. And so it caused me to look around and evaluate what I was doing while I was like waiting for the fruition of God's promises to come through. And it made me restructure my daily routine. It made me refocus the things that I was focused on. It made me shift and just make sure that I was in a place of waiting, but I was working by faith. Faith and works. Even though I could not fully see God's promises, what I did know was that baseline rhythms, baseline rhythms they will put you back on, they will keep you on track so that you are not completely lost in your emotions or completely lost in your frustration, because honestly, validated, like your emotions are validated, your frustrations are validated. It's just not a place that you can stay in. My baseline rhythms of going before the Lord every single morning, or reading or praying or worshiping, like my baseline rhythms, that is what kept me seeking the Lord. And the more that you seek the Lord, the more God is able to heal you and remove those things from you so that you're no longer being blinded by your emotions or no longer being blinded by your frustration. And so when I talk to wives, I typically tell them, hey, stay in this baseline rhythm. Like, this is your tool that will keep you on path when you're angry, or keep you on path when you're disappointed.
It is the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast.
So why would I walk away if God said I can handle it? If He has endowed me with dunamis power that lives in me, how can I live defeated?
But one of the things that I realized was that I'm a person too.
You're in the wilderness and you don't even realize it. And so now we walk around with the spirit of offense and unforgiveness and anger and bitterness. And God has to get that stuff off of us first.
Thriving Decrees for the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss is not just a book, but it is a power tool made for the leader in you as a wife, as a mother, as a business entrepreneur, and as a minister. Whatever is inside of us, it pours out of us in our leadership. And so this book was curated to ensure that the very best of you is what is being poured out. It was created to help you heal, overcome, and conquer everything that tries to hold you down from being the thriving leader that you were created to be. Make sure you go to my website at www.clemetradashie.com and order your copy. Hey, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, thank you so much for joining me today on another episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. We have had some amazing guests this season, all coming on and sharing their background stories as to why they do the type of business that they do. And some of those stories have been incredibly impactful. And so I'm super grateful for the ladies who have come on, and I look forward to, we are going to take a break, another break, just like we always do. Starting mid-June, we're going to go for about a month, mid-June to July. And I will let you guys know the return date as soon as I verify that date with God, of course. But definitely loving the direction that we're going to be going in the fourth season of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. We've been talking so much about business this season that I really want to hone in on being a wife in the next season of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, just talking about the ups, the downs, the strengths, just nuggets, tools, whatever it is, the prayer position and prayer lifestyle. We won't even go there, but just know I'm super excited about the fourth season and what that is going to bring. So I hope you girls have been minding yourself so far
this month, really just taking care of you as you continue to take care of others. Minding yourself is not about neglecting anyone else. It's about remembering not to neglect yourself, your likes, your wants, what you need, what makes you happy, what makes you smile. I don't know what, like, is this midlife crisis for me? Because lately I have entirely been just kind of evaluating what makes me happy and what makes me smile. What do I want to do on a day-to-day basis? Like, what makes me feel like I'm not just flowing in this like repetitive daily cycle of events, like daily cycle of things to do. And so I'm actually still exploring that as things come up and as I think about it, I am exploring it and kind of dealing with it. But all of this on top of also, whatever the God is asking me to do as a wife, whatever He's asking me to do as a mother, I am in leadership again in my job position, in church and all of these things. And so I found myself like in a moment of how again, because I don't know if you guys remember when I shared the story of me writing my first book and I was incredibly overwhelmed trying to do all of these things, knowing that God said, hey, you know what, do this book. And so I found myself in this position of just trying to figure out, how do I get all of these things done? Like, I trust God and I know that He's not a God that sets me up for failure. So if He told me to do these things, then He has a vision and a plan for these things. And so I was in a place of just like about to bottom out. And I did this thing, which I say it is called handing God my planner. And I say, God, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to get this stuff done? And I went to bed that night and I got up that morning as I always do, and He just started giving me instructions of how to get these things done. And one by one, I just started getting these things done. It was amazing to see, like, when I couldn't clearly think for myself because I was overwhelmed by so much going on, I was able to talk to God about it and ask God to help me understand how to get these things done. And so I found myself in that situation again recently, and God is like, hey, like, I've given you all of the instructions. And sometimes all of the instructions, they're not like all at one time. It's like over the last year. Hey, I've told you how to eat. I've told you how to exercise. I've told you how to assemble your morning time. I've told you what kind of supplements you needed to take. Like, I've given you all of these instructions, and these instructions were not just me trying to control your life, but I know where your life is going. I know where you are heading. I need you to implement these things and to get these things in structure and get these things in order, so that when I call for you to step up to the thing that I'm calling for you to step up to, you're good to go. Like, you're not overwhelmed. You're not extremely exhausted because you've prepared your body, you've prepared your heart, you've prepared your mind, you've prepared your spirit, and you're ready to execute in the assignment. And so recently, when I found myself incredibly overwhelmed by everything that I was having to show up for or to do, and God is like, hey, finish this book and do this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. Okay, how am I going to get all of these things done? I'm already exhausted from everything else in my life. And God is like, you're like, really, you're not implementing the things that I've told you to implement. A lot of the times when we're like exhausted or mentally overwhelmed or feel like we have so much going on in our life, it is because we are not implementing the plans of God. We're not following God's instructions. And so recently we had one of the ladies come on and she was talking about the promised land, and we were talking about being in the wilderness and the wilderness experience. And what kept them in the wilderness was their disobedience and their lack of faith to the things that God has spoken. And so even in my weekly email to my community, I was talking about being obedient to the instructions of God and waiting
well. I still remember when God said this to me because it really made me reevaluate how I was waiting in certain seasons and in certain situations. And he said, wait like you believe what I said. Wait like you believe what I said. And so it caused me to look around and evaluate what I was doing while I was like waiting for the fruition of God's promises to come through. And it made me restructure my daily routine. It made me refocus the things that I was focused on. It made me shift and just make sure that I was in a place of waiting, but I was working by faith, faith and works. I was working while I was waiting. And so, um, I when he said that to me again recently, it was hilarious because it had so much to do with the book that he told me I needed to finish up. Um, and really, it is the book of me just teaching, like going back to the baseline of allowing God to instruct your day, allowing God to organize the things that are going on in your life so that you can show up to the place that he's calling for you to show up and do the things that he is calling for you to do. And if you're feeling exhausted and you're feeling overstressed and you're feeling overwhelmed, it really does benefit you to sit for just a second and ask yourself, why? Did God give you some instruction that you have not implemented? A lot of the times we tend to take God's instruction as a suggestion. Like when God was telling me what to eat, when God was telling me to exercise, when God was telling me to do all of these things, it could be so easy to take those things as a suggestion and not as God's word, like God's vision, God's plan. This is the instruction that he's given us. And so just like the Israelites in the desert, when they didn't heed to the instructions that God have given them, they found themselves in worlds of trouble. They found themselves wandering aimlessly. They found themselves in desperate situations where God, of course, still supplied for them and God was still there for them. But when we don't take those instructions, when we don't heed those instructions, we find ourselves in hard places and in hard situations. And so I was finding myself in this hard place, and I had to go back to that baseline of, okay, this is what God instructed to me for me to do. Have I been eating the way he has told me to eat, exercising the confession, the exercise part, yo, listen. Because who got okay, full confession. My husband did buy me a treadmill because I told him I needed a treadmill like a couple of years ago. He was very hesitant to buy it because he knows how I am. But anyways, he did buy me a treadmill. So full disclosure, I don't entirely have an excuse except for the fact that I'm really needing to push myself to just get up and get on the treadmill. I do love walking outside. Our area is very pretty. I do love walking. But I don't like bugs. I don't overly love walking in the heat. And baby, I am in Florida, so the heat do be heating. And it's been raining a lot. So I don't entirely have an excuse because I do have the treadmill. And so that's on me. I definitely need to make sure that I am being more diligent about my time and getting up and getting on the treadmill. But anyways, and just how he taught me to structure my day. And so it is the beginning of June. It is officially the beginning of June. And what I am doing is just really, and really for me, this is a part of minding myself as well. Like minding myself is taking care of the things that I need to take care of so that I can do everything, like thrive in the things that God is calling for me to thrive in. And those things are a part of that. Minding myself is not a selfish movement. It is not, I mean, it's not a selfish movement, but it is including, or what should I say, tending to self. It is tending to self. You can't write the book that you are needing to write because you're so overwhelmed or you are stressed or you don't know how to deal with these certain situations. I was talking to a friend and I was telling her, girl, listen,
This phone right here, when I get overwhelmed, it's very easy to just pick up the phone and scroll because it takes my mind off of everything. I don't have to think about anything. I don't like I'm like it just literally takes my mind to a place of like I don't have to think about any of this stuff. Is that stuff still there? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's still there. I'll have to think about it later. But for right now, in this moment, I do not have to think about this thing. But it's very easy to just get distracted from taking care of the things that we need to take care of. So when we get overwhelmed, we find a distraction instead of um tending to ourselves and figuring out how or what it is that is causing this overwhelmness so that we can execute the things that we need to execute in. And girl, it is the season. It's always the season, but it is the season. You have to get yourself together. You have to get your mind right so that you can execute the things that God is calling for you to execute in. We can't continue to make these excuses. He has given us not just the goal, but he's given us the how to. This is how you get to this place. This is how you do this thing. This is what you need to do to your body and to yourself to make sure that you're able to sustain the journey. I remember when God said, yes, his promises is his promises. What he said is going to come to fruition, but everybody is not able to sustain the promises. Like they're not able to keep the thing that God has called for them to keep because we're not implementing the process, like we're not implementing the steps of the journey, the wisdom that God has given us to sustain during the journey so that we can get to the promise. And even then he gives us instructions of how to stay in how to stay in that promise, and we're not executing those things. So that is literally like what I am getting to do this summer is really just I have a planner. I actually created a planner. I'm going to release that planner for the 2027 year. That's going to be really excited. But that planner has so many different sections so that we can just not like do our day to day. Yeah, we got to write down our appointments and this bill is due and that bill is due and passwords and whatever, etc. Blah, 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 blah. But we also get to write down in that planner the things that God has spoken to us, the instructions that he has given us for this month and this season, and just make sure that we read that. You know what? You know what I found the issue in journaling? I have books of journals. I love journaling. I love writing down the things of God. When I sit with him in quiet places, when I am still with him, I love writing these things down. But the issue that a lot of people have in that is that they never go back and look at all the things that God has spoken. And I do get that for some of us that's impossible because we have stacks of books and stacks of journals. But we never go back and look, even in the things that he has spoken to us recently concerning the things of now. Concerning the things of now. And so the planner is incredibly helpful in that way, is that we get to look at the things concerning the things of now. All of these instructions that God has given you was to take you to this place, right? Whether that place is spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, all of the above. All of these instructions have been to take you to this place. Have you implemented the instructions that God has told you to do so that you're not feeling overwhelmed and stressed? I'm super excited about the reset room. The reset room, we do it every month, every first Wednesday. We get to really just reset our spirit and reset our mind to focus on the things of God, not on what happened last month, not on what happened earlier this year. We are recognizing those things, releasing those things because they don't necessarily serve us a purpose for the future things of God. And they tend to hang on like leeches. Like they just leeches. They just suck all of the life out of you. And so gonna remove those leeches so that we can move on to the things that God is calling for us to move on to. I am super excited to share more about the book with you guys. That book is going to be coming up very quickly. Um, yes, that book is going to be coming up very quickly. I'm excited to share more information and more details with you about the book. And these books really are just leading up to a bigger book, and I'm excited about what it is that God is doing concerning um, the information or the pour that He's causing me to pour out into the community, because, baby, we need it. We need it, and we need to be reminded of some things. We definitely need it as wives. Girl, listen. I've come across so many wives that just like they're just done. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, they are literally just done. They're ready to walk out of their marriages. They're ready to just step away. And some of them, I want to say some of them rightfully so, because if you feel like that, then rightfully so to you. But whether it's just not being treated right, um, I think some of these ladies just have this worldly desire of what they want their marriage to look like. Whatever the situation is, a lot of these women are ready to like step away. Some of them are staying because they heard God tell them that they needed to stay. Some of them are not necessarily listening to God, and they just doing whatever they want to do. Some of them are quick to be like, I'm out. They don't even want, like, they just have their own, like, and then some of them are genuinely confused on what it is that they need to do. And so that's a hard place to be in. And so for me, when I was in that situation and I was ready to come out of my marriage and God told me to stay, it wasn't anything that I wanted to do, but I very specifically heard God to tell me to stay. And so I did do the podcast episode a while back about staying in a marriage when you want to leave. But like, let's just be real for a second. That is hard. It is very hard to wake up every single day in a marriage that you do not want to be in. It is hard to be the wife in the marriage that you do not want to be in. And I don't know what everybody's like specific situation is. I don't know what has happened in your marriage to cause you to be that way. I just know that I can't take it lightly, because when it was me, I knew how hard it was to honor God in my marriage when I did not want to be in the marriage. But in the same sentence, wanting to honor God in my marriage is what kept me being the wife that God was calling for me to be. It kept me from being the wife that argued every time something didn't go the way that I feel like it should have went. It kept me from being the wife from making snarky comments when my husband didn't do the things that I think that he should have did. It kept me being a wife that was able to humbly submit and serve my husband even when I didn't necessarily want to. And every time I start talking about this, I immediately start thinking about Abigail in the Bible. Because she clearly, like, I'm just picturing this. Like, she clearly, she had great wisdom as a wife, and her husband was a fool. And I can just only imagine. Abigail's story is not really talked about a whole lot, but I can just imagine that Abigail was ready to bounce. Like, Abigail was ready to be out. Like, yo, you a whole nut up here. You drunk and you just disrespectful. You a whole nut up here. But Abigail stayed with her husband even after she had to go down and meet David and tell David, hey, like, here, like, don't destroy the people because of this man's foolishness. She went and she got back into bed with her husband. And in that situation, I just think about how she was honoring God by interceding for her husband and interceding for the village. And God honors you when you move in wisdom to intercede or to act in a way that allows God to come in and to have his way. Whatever God's way is, whatever God's way. But I say that because some of these women cannot even pray the way that they need to pray or want to pray for their husbands, for their marriages, or whatever, because they're so full and fed up with frustration from how the marriage is going or how the husband is behaving. It is a really hard place to be in. It is a really hard place to be in. And so I don't say this without understanding that it's a hard place to be in. But I say this to say, um, if you're in a place of confusion in your marriage, if you're in a place of frustration in your marriage, if you're in a place of just feeling like you're ready to step away or walk away, but you are someone who fears the Lord, and you desire to hear the word of the Lord for your marriage, get in a place where you can hear him. Get in a place where you can perceive the things that he is speaking for your marriage. Because again, when he speaks something, when he says something, when he gives these instructions, it's not for his amusement. He literally is guiding you to a place. And so over the years, as I stayed in a place that I didn't necessarily want to stay in, God consistently gave me instructions or um, gave me wisdom concerning me as a wife. And it was amazing to get to a place where I was seeing the fruition of God's promises come for my renewed or revived marriage. Because where we were years back was just basically it was a place of marital death. Like our marriage was on the rocks. It was a struggle, but God was speaking words of reviving marriage to me. He was speaking words of renewal, words of promise concerning my marriage. And I was in a place where I could not I honestly could not see how we were going to get to this promised place in my marriage where God was calling me to. Like I couldn't see it, but I couldn't see it because I had so much inside of me. I had bitterness. I was resentful. I was angry. I was all of these things were inside of me and they were blinding me to seeing God's promises. But even though I could not fully see God's promises, what I did know was that baseline rhythms, baseline rhythms they will put you back on they will keep you on track so that you are not completely lost in your emotions or completely lost in your frustration because honestly validated like your emotions are validated, your frustrations are validated. It's just not a place that you can stay in. And so my baseline rhythms of going before the Lord every single morning or reading or praying or worshiping, like my baseline rhythms, that is what kept me seeking the Lord. And the more that you seek the Lord, the more God is able to heal you and remove those things from you so that you're no longer being blinded by your emotions or no longer being blinded by your frustration. And so when I talk to wives, I typically tell them, hey, stay in this baseline rhythm. Like this is your tool that will keep you on path when you're angry. It'll keep you on path when you're disappointed. It'll keep you on path when you're hurt or when you're feeling overwhelmed. It will keep you on path in all of these areas. Is just these, man, God, these baseline rhythms. I thank God so much for the rhythm that keeps you going when you want to quit. Like it just keeps you going when you want to stop. And so those baseline rhythms, like they kept me every time my mind even wondered about um being single, about being divorced or being any of these things. Anytime my mind even wondered about any of those things, those baseline rhythms kept me until I could, and you know, they still keep us, but until I could see God's promises, God's fruition coming together for my marriage and for my life, those baseline rhythms kept me going. And so Me and my husband talk about all types of things concerning our growth and where we've been and where we are and where we need to go, and not just where we need to go, but how do we get there and how do we implement the steps that we need to get to this place. And if it's not something that you do in your marriage, it's a beautiful and amazing thing to do in your marriage because it keeps you on one page. And so we were talking about those times where I did, like, there are some things that I can confess to him that he might not necessarily knew. Like, he knew, like, in the beginning, like the first part of our troubles as in our marriage. I don't even remember. God, I don't remember what year it was. But anyways, in the first part, where our troubles began at that part of our marriage. Like, he knew that I wanted to walk away. He knew I was like out, like done. But he did not know that that feeling lingered for so long afterwards. Like, it was everything that I could do to just call it like I'm done, right? I just wanted to like call it quits. But God always assured me in the place that he wanted me to stay. And so I was sharing that with my husband, and he was just kind of like, like he didn't realize that it lingered for so long. But I'm gonna tell you, that is what honoring God in your marriage will do for you. Yes, you still feel the way you feel, but you will confess it to God and you will ask God to give you the strength and the wisdom to navigate what you're feeling and to teach you and show you how to not necessarily walk in those emotions. And so there were many times where I had to go to God and just have a conversation with him about how I was feeling. Some of those conversations were in tears, but to see that God consistently like covers and carries and comforts and strengthens in those moments so that I can, because honestly, it's not just for you, it's for your family, it's for your children. Um, and a lot of the times, God has amazing things for these marriages to do. Like, He has amazing things for husband and wife to take care of. But troubles and worries either derail that or they halt it, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, there are plans of God sometimes for your marriage that for marriages anyways, for that might not come to pass because the wife is very quickly to walk away or the husband is very quickly to walk away. It's not just the wife, but I'm talking to the wives. And so to see God carry me through that, and for me to be able to still be this wife and start, at some point reaping the benefits of the seeds that I had sown, even in hard times, it's amazing to see God's promises come to fruition in any part of your life, but specifically now talking about your marriage, is amazing to see your husband begin to pray the way that he needs to pray, or to seek the face of God the way that he needs to seek the face of God. And that one, girl, that is for you, my unequally yoked wife who is struggling in her marriage because her husband is not doing the things that she wants him to do. It is not about you forcing his hand. It is not about you giving him an ultimatum. That will cause people to seek God for the wrong reasons, and the things will just never take root because they're not doing it out of their own will or their own desire to know God, or their own realization of, oh my God, I really need to get in a deeper relationship with God. So honoring him, right? Honoring God in the marriage and allowing God to do the work in your husband, allowing God to do the work in you, allowing God to do the work in your household. All is just a huge part of the journey. Implementing the things that God told you to implement as a wife, implement the thing that God told you to implement in your life, implementing all of these instructions and all of this wisdom so that you don't feel overwhelmed as a wife, overly stressed as a wife, or just as a leader, or as a mom, as an author, as a blogger, as a business owner. God has given us very specific instructions, and all we need to do is implement those instructions on a daily basis so that we really can stop looking around at everybody else and saying, oh my God, how are they doing this? Oh my God, how are they able? You can do it too, really, if you mind yourself by taking care of yourself, following the instructions of the Lord, figuring out your rhythm, figuring out your process, figuring out your path, and what allows you to successfully fulfill
all of these things that God has put in your hand. He did not put it in your hand to be this heavily, inaccessibly, like burdensome thing that you will never be able to achieve. He put it in your hand because he trusts you to find the rhythm that you have to make this thing work. And he is going to give you the strength, the energy, and the wisdom that you need to successfully fulfill it. But are you being obedient to the things that he has called for you to do? And are you making sure that you're taking care of yourself in the process? All right. That is pretty much what I wanted to chat with you girls about today. I think we have about 2 more episodes left before we take our break. 1 or 2 more episodes left before we take our break, and then we're gonna come back talking about the wives. I would love to hear from you guys on how this season was for you. Any specific episode that hit more than the other? Any specific episode that you feel like really allowed you to examine your life or examine your business, and you can implement some of those strategies and some of those steps, and you can begin to see a difference in what it is that you are doing. Okay, you can email me at kwmbpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to my website at clemetradashie.com. All right. I will talk to you guys later, and I pray that you have an amazing and beautiful June. Love you guys. Bye. Hey, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you catch us every week here on the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, where we are bringing you new episodes, new content, new information, new empowerment, new strategies, and new strength. Until then, I'll catch you next time.